Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. All right, first question. I love training in the morning fasted because I'm more consistent, energy slightly better, overall felt good. How should I go with my nutrition-wise to help with recovery later on in the day? I also prefer bigger meal later on the day. Thanks in advance, sir. I'm the wrong person to ask. Do you know why? Because I don't believe in training fasted. I think that if you actually care about your recovery and your performance, you will eat before you train. Okay, the data is pretty convincing there. It's not my opinion. It's not about opinion. It's about what the weight of the evidence and the anecdote shows. You've been convinced to train fasted because you've bought into a bunch of silly, goofy, trendy-ass bullshit off YouTube. Okay? You need a reality check. No, your energy is not better. It's not biologically possible that your energy is better fasted when you're training. It can't be. Okay? Unless you are an alien, in which case I wouldn't admit to that. You're going to end up in a government lab and be dissected and studied because you're not one of us. If you are a member of the species Homo sapien, the data says no, that's not the case. Okay, a bunch of people who believe in fasting have convinced you that it's great, and therefore you've created an imagination in your head that it is. Start training with some carbs first. Eat a few carbs, even a small amount, 30, 40 grams before you train, an hour before you train, and then go measure your performance, your weight, your reps, your sets, how much volume you can tolerate, and then come back and tell me your energy was better fasted. It absolutely was not. Okay, you need to eat first. You need to eat first rather than worry about, hey, can I make up for the downside of fasting by trying to fix my nutrition later in the day? The real solution here is to not train fasted. That's your solution. That's going to do more for you than any advice I could give in the context of which you asked it. Okay. Drop the silly nonsense. If you're cutting, then that's a different story. If fasting helps you cut, it helps you consistently maintain a calorie deficit, then by all means. But we deal with recovery in that case by mitigating training volume, getting more sleep, things like that. And if you say, well, I can't sleep more, I can't do these other things, then you don't need to be cutting probably, unless you're unhealthy at a high body fat. Okay, because you're not going to recover. Right? But if your goal is recovery and performance, you don't need to be training fasted at all. It's nonsense. All right, next question. Thoughts on maximizing sets and reps? AG Massive Iron by Steve Shaw. Training 2 days per week for a busy dad for strength and general health. I can't help you with the Massive Iron part. I have known nothing about that. I'm not saying I don't know who Steve Shaw is. Steve Shaw and I have done business together in the past before we had a falling out, I don't know, 6 years ago. Talked to him on the phone a few times, you know. I know Steve Shaw, but I don't know anything about what he promotes for training. I'm sorry. But what I say, should you maximize sets and reps? Yes, that's a good idea. So training 2 days per week for a busy dad for strength and general health. All right, this is simple. Let's say you can only get in the gym 2 days. It does happen. What would I generally recommend? Pushing near maximum volume for those workouts. In other words, when we say, hey, 5 to 10 quality sets per muscle group, you need to gear towards 10. Right? If you're a novice still, take any good novice program. Right? Instead of 3 days, stretch it out. Because you're only going to do it 2. Don't add the stuff together. Like if you run, say, my 5x5, my old 5x5, it's a lot of volume. Don't try to add more to one workout. Just spread it out. If you're not a ranked novice anymore, run conjugate and spread your 4 days over 2 weeks instead of 1. What's that mean? It means max effort lower and max effort upper on 1 week, dynamic effort lower, dynamic effort upper the next week. You'll still make progress doing that. Will it be maximized? No. But if we take something like optimal programming, which again, big full body linear programming for novices, and anyone beyond that, conjugate, you take optimal programming and you space it out further, it's still optimal programming. Okay? You just have more recovery time. Your total growth and adaptation is going to be a little lower. Right? You're going to gain 20-30% slower probably. Okay, that just is what it is. But if the individual workouts are still high quality, again, we are getting sufficient stimulus with good programming, good number of effective reps, good tension, then it'll work. It'll work. You'll still get gains. They just won't be maximized. But it's still better than taking bad programming and trying to just lump it all in. So that's the two programming approaches I would recommend. The same thing I recommend to everyone else, just instead of the 3-day and 4-day systems those things do, just spread them out. So in other words, it'll take you a week and a half or 2 weeks to do what would normally be 1 week's worth of work. You'll get results. You'll get results as long as you train hard. You get the food in, you get the rest in. All right. Next question, and possibly last question of the week. Why don't you use kettlebells? I know you've told me, but I'd like to hear in a video if possible. I actually do use kettlebells. I do prescribe kettlebell swings to some of my clients. Right? Occasionally on my deloads, I'll do a few extensions and some small exercises with kettlebells. Right? I mess with a little bit of kettlebells. Not very much, obviously, these days. And I mean, I have phases where I do it for conditioning. I like kettlebell swings as a GPP exercise, to be fair. Okay, I think some smaller movements do just fine for a variation with kettlebells. Here's my problem with kettlebells. They're basically just big, almost useless hunks of shit that have a cult following. What do I mean? They're non-adjustable. They're big, they're heavy, they're expensive, and you just can't accumulate that many. They take up a lot of space. They cost a lot, and you got to have a bunch of them to have any sort of way to really train with them in any form of progressive overload manner. Okay? They're unwieldy, which is fine for certain modalities, right? For certain types of supplemental work and stuff, like you want to do some clean and presses and stuff, or some snatches and things with them. Okay, they have their place for, especially for people like grapplers and certain types of fighters. But for overall size and strength, they're just not the best tool. We have way better tools that work better for overloading muscles and the movement patterns that we want to overload. Okay, adjustable barbells and adjustable dumbbells are generally superior. But again, I don't think kettlebells are useless, right? I don't think they're they have uses, and I use them and prescribe them from time to time. But they've been overhyped, largely due to people like Pavel Tausilin, the Russian strength coach. He played a big role in getting them popularized here in the West. But it's a gimmick. It's kind of a gimmick, guys. And again, I don't want people to think that I'm saying that they're useless and they can't play a part in a strength and conditioning program, because they can. But they're going to be a minor part. They cannot compete with or replace barbells, specialty bars, dumbbells, and things for a lot of primary exercises. They just can't. But it doesn't mean they're useless. They're just another tool. But if they did not exist, we wouldn't be any worse off for it. That's the only way I look at it. They're kind of a unnecessary, inefficient tool, particularly from a purchasing and a space management and everything else. They just really are. But they're still useful, and it's good to have some variation, right? I like having more utility personally. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.